wanted to talk to y'all about voting. Of course, because it's coming up, and I've been seeing people trying to encourage people to go vote, and I mean, that's your business if that's what you want to do, but I'm here to tell you what you're really doing. And I ain't got all the answers. I tell people this all the time. I tell people in my class, I don't know. I don't got all the answers. No, I don't know what you might want to do next or whatever. But what I do know is that the Bible says, you shall have no other God before me. I'm trying to wait for that truck to go by. You shall have no other God before me. Do you understand that? That means that you don't worship idols. You don't worship anything fictitious. To worship something is to love it, to keep giving it your attention, to give it your time, attention, your energy, to bow down to it, to bend the knee to it. When you do that to anything fictitious, you have basically violated that first law. You violated that first commandment. Thou shalt have no other God before me. I'm trying to let these trucks go by. I don't know if y'all can hear me good or not. So I'm going to read you something from a book that I'm reading. Now, what's interesting is I found that book like a year ago. But when I first started doing or calling myself a word magician, and I created a whole segment on my YouTube page, which you can find it on Black Fire Nation. Go to YouTube, put in Black Fire Nation, BLAQ, Fire Nation. And I have a whole section called Word Magic. But before I did that, I Googled word magic just to see what came up so I could understand what I was competing with the algorithms and all of that. But anyway, I found this book like a year ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna order that. And of course I forgot because I started doing 10 zillion other things. Anyway, the book came back up. Somebody else brought it back up to my attention. So I said, let me get this book. Mind you, this book is written by like maybe a Chinese guy or something. His name is Pao Chung. I'll show it to you again. See? All right, Elsie Davis says she can hear me good. This book talks a lot about what the magicians are doing. That's what I teach in the Self-Realization of a Goddess class, what magic really is, so that you will be able to recognize it when you see it. So that you'll be able to recognize when a ritual is occurring, when somebody's trying to cast a spell on you, whether we're talking about a man trying to cast a spell on you or trying to get in your drawers, or whether we're talking about the government trying to cast a spell on you. You need to know what magic really is. It's not like watching freaking Charmed and shit. Like, it's not that complicated. It's putting an image in front of you and getting you to believe that image is real. And they do that with words, signs, and symbols. But anyway, this book talks about how the government does magic, basically. And they do it in a very simple way. It has a lot to do with the straw man. The straw man, the concept of the straw man is a spiritual concept. It is beyond filing freaking UCC1 papers and what they call it, authentication of birth certificates and all that other. It's way beyond that. It's got to do with your soul. Okay? It got to do with you understanding that you are a child of God. And when the Bible says that thou shalt have no other God before me, when you go vote, you are putting a God before the omnipotent, unseen, unheard, invisible power of the law of the universe. I'm not talking about nothing spooky. When I talk about God, I'm talking about the law. The law. The law is God. The law is the Lord. Okay? So the universal law is what we call God. It is unseen and it's always at work. That's why there's no such thing as an injustice. There's no such thing as an injustice. Everybody always gets what they deserve. Period. So I'm going to read something to you from this book. Okay, he's breaking down the word vote. But really, he just is. Anybody could go look up the etymology of it. It's going to tell you right there. Vote. The word vote is derived from the Latin word votum, meaning a vow, a wish, a promise to a god, a solemn pledge, a dedication. The lowercase form of the word God is defined as one of the several deities, especially a male deity, presiding over some portion of worldly images. Basically, the lowercase form of God. When you're reading the Bible and God is in lowercase, it could be talking about a devil, a demon, a fictitious false god. Now, mind you, you still have to be careful when reading that, because that whole uppercase, lowercase thing, that's another way to cast spells. It's just another way to cast spells. That's how they lock us into the straw man name, by giving us the all caps name. But that's a story for another day. I'm sure some of y'all are familiar with that. But the point that I wanted to make about the etymology of the word vote, it means a promise to a god. So when you go vote for any of these fake characters in government, you are basically saying that they're your God. And you have violated the first commandment, which is, thou shalt have no other God before me. So now what you're doing is you're worshiping them. The other way that you worship them is that when you think that they're supposed to fix everything for you, when you think that they're supposed to fix everything for you, let's just vote them in, and then they'll fix everything, and we don't have to be accountable for ourselves. No. What you're doing is you are giving up your natural rights when you do that. Because basically you're saying that I don't have any control over myself. I need a king over me. There's scriptures where God says, oh, you said you wanted a king over you? I wanted to be your king. God said I wanted to be your king. But since you want to put another king over you, okay, I'm going to let you have another king over you, because God always honors your I am. That's the law. The universe always honors your I am, because that's the law. So you said you want a king over you? Okay, there you go. And then the Bible says, or God says in the Bible, because you wanted another king over you, that king is going to enslave you. Enslave you by turning you into a fictional character, just like they are a fictional character. Any kind of title is a fictional character. A president is a fictional character. A council of this and a council of that, a fictional character. Okay? So, let's see, what else does it say? Now, there's something else interesting here about a particular word that they're using, that he pulled up a particular word. It actually looks like the word George, to be honest with you. But it's another word for like an abstract idea. Anyway, it says, a government is an abstract entity. It speaks and acts through agents. An agent is just another word for like a straw man, okay? An agent is a double or a diablo, a devil. Okay? Now, I'm not saying devil is always a bad thing. You have to understand what the devil really is, or how to use it. How to use it. Shit, this battery about to go dead. It says, these hold offices under law, constitutional or statutory, with prescribed duties and limited authority. So that means that the government only has the authority that we, the people, give them. The government only has breath because we give them breath when we vote them into office. We ask them to speak for us. That is why they're doing this ritual where everybody has a mask on, because that's a ritual of silence. Like, they want to silence you, the true you, and they want to speak for you. And when you vote them into office, you basically say, okay, I'm going to close my mouth and let you speak on my behalf. That's why they have something called a House of Representatives, which is the acronym for the word whore, like the whore of Babylon, HOR, House of Representatives, right? They also have, what do they call, a House of Speakers or something like that? Yes, or they have a Speaker of the House, which I believe right now is what, Nancy Pelosi. That's why Trump keep probably saying something about her. But that means that you put these people in a position to speak for you, to be your voice, which means that you must be a dummy then. You must don't have a voice then. Oh, you can't breathe. That means you can't talk. That means you're a dummy. That means that you put somebody else in position to speak for you. And you basically made the government your God. What he says here in the book, because the word vote etymologically means a promise to God. When you vote, you are making a promise to a God, which is the government. You have made the government your God. That's what you've done. He said, in other words, the government is the God of voters. The government is the God of voters. Now, he does talk about like how, because for you to be a voter, you have to be a U.S. citizen, which means that you've already basically pledged to be an employee of the United States. This is why, you know, when it comes to understanding spirituality and the straw man, you have to study both sides of those things. Y'all are thinking that you're just gonna vote. Like, no, that you're basically saying that like they're your God. You're saying that they're your God. You're saying that you don't have a voice. You're saying that you're a dummy. You're saying all those things. So let me get to the part where it talks about where it uses a word that it looks like the word George. I'm gonna spell it for you. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because that word George has came up multiple times around these so-called murders. Like George Zimmerman allegedly, you know, murdered Trayvon Martin. Then now you got a George Floyd, and then you got a George Soros, who is, from what I understand, funding the Black Lives Matters. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know that there's a word named George that's mixed up in this shit. Okay, now that's 3 times that name is mixed up in this. You have to pay attention to patterns. Pay attention to patterns. Like they think that we're stupid. That's why they just what they call it, playing in your face. They do it right in your face. Because the majority of the people are not going to catch on. They just gonna follow like sheep and just do what everybody else doing. Oh, I can't breathe. Laying on the ground, acting like you dead and all that shit. Like, what is wrong? No. Stop that. All right. He says, the government is an imaginary thing that exists in the collective mind of the people. In the world in the world of occult magic, an abstract entity is known as an egregore with a thought form. You can look this word up, okay? It's spelled E-G-R-E-G-O-R-E. It means a thought form. Now, mind you, in the book of Revelation, it talks about like this energy coming together, and they all had one mind, and they all had one thought. But that's what's happening all over the world with the whole George Floyd thing. One mind, one thought. This sun is bright. I can barely see myself from here. Okay, so anyway, it says a very important information about the egregores, which sounds like George, is that the act of worshiping them can transfer them into false gods. Basically, long story short, and then I'm gonna get off here, is what you're doing when you vote is you're turning the government into a fictional god that you are putting over yourself. That's what happens when you vote. That's what you're doing when you vote. The alternative to that is for everyone to be self-accountable and everyone to be self-governed. But see, we always, when I ask about that, people are like, "Oh no, we need government. We need the police." Why? The real reason why is because we are immature and we don't want to govern ourselves, and we don't want to be self-accountable. So then you can't get mad when you need a police and you need a government, because a lot of people are not self-accountable and not self-governed. Like, I mean, we could just keep going around and around in a circle with this. Majority of people are not mature enough to govern themselves. They need somebody to tell them what to do and what to think. They need that. So that's what's happening. And the ritual that's happening right now is basically them what's the word I'm looking for? They're re-entering the contract to govern over us. Again, that's what they're doing. Even when I saw the image of them, they call it taking a knee, which I thought was interesting because the whole knee thing, there was a knee in George's neck. But anyway, them taking the knee, they already bowed down to us. We just don't know it. We just don't know it. We just don't know it. They already bowed down to us. In regards to the Bible, people get mad about the Bible. Oh, the Bible is about slavery and it says it's okay to have slaves, but you don't realize that you're the fucking master. You're the master in the Bible. You're the master. And the government is the slave. That's why they bowed down to you. Anything fictional is your slave. Anything fictional is your slave, okay? So let me plug myself real quick before I get off here. I'm gonna look at y'all comments after I hang up because I can't even really see because of the sun. But the self-realization of a goddess course, I cover the spiritual aspect of the straw man. Now I've been thinking about separating that because I think it could be a little overwhelming, because the first part of it is really about just being self-accountable and understanding that you fully create your reality. And I think people have a hard time just grasping that by itself. So to try to add in the understanding that, you know, how the government created you as a straw man, that might be a little bit too much. You know, I did that for the last 2 years of the course, and I'm wondering if that's too much. I'm gonna actually send a survey out to everybody that took it and ask them if they thought that was overwhelming. Because if it is, I'm going to take it out and just make it a separate class.